you guys, welcome back to my Halloween special. And today, it was actually kind of hard for me to find out which movie I wanted to talk about for this episode. So I actually decided on talking about one of my favorite Stephen King movies. Not my favorite, but definitely top 3. And that would be Christine. Christine was unbelievably terrifying when I saw it. I mean, specifically the first time I saw it, because I had nightmares that this car was going to chase me down and try and run me over. But on the caveat, I have to say that Christine is probably one of my favorite cars in pop culture, if not my favorite, because I'm obsessed with the car. I think it's really beautiful and amazing looking car. I mean, you don't see many cars like that, and they're so rare to find. But the only drawback I'd like to say about this movie is that the fact they didn't really go into detail about how the car got possessed. So, I mean, that was the one drawback. The fact that it was just said that it was built to be evil. I don't know, because I never read the book myself. But, I mean, if there is some kind of story as to how it became evil, I'd really like to know it. But in the movie, that was the one drawback, that it was just created to be evil. But believe me, the good far outweighs the bad. For those who haven't seen the movie, I'll give a little premise of what this movie is about. Christine is about this young, introverted kid named Arnie, who is played by actor Keith Gordon. On his first day of his senior year, he finds this 1958 Plymouth Fury, and he literally just becomes obsessed with it the first sight of it, and he restores it to its fine and glory. And that's where the real mystery comes in, because his obsession with the car, you really don't know if he is literally obsessed with the car or if the car is making him become obsessed with it, which is what's really interesting about Christine. When I mean he becomes obsessed, I mean he becomes obsessed to the nth degree. Arnie's transformation, aside from the car, was probably the best thing about this movie. I mean, his transformation from becoming a nerdy kid to like this greaser, it's like really amazing, because it's like it's not even looking at the same character anymore. When I say a greaser, he looks like this guy from the 50s, even though the movie takes place in the 70s. And like I said before, you don't know if it's him who's wanting to change or if the car is making him change. So, I mean, that's just one mystery right there that you never know. Hardly any of Christine that was special effects. I mean, if I recall, John Carpenter had 16 cars built for this movie, and some of them you couldn't even get into because they were filled with nothing but hydraulics that were used to like crush the car by like pulling it in. But the interesting and cool trick to it was that when they shot the scene, they shot the car being destroyed, but what you're actually seeing is that they're playing the scene backwards. So it actually looks like the car is repairing itself, which is pretty cool, and a pretty simple trick too. It's really interesting what you can do if you shoot a scene backwards. The first scene of Christine that actually made me jump was when Dennis, Arnie's friend, actually sneaks into the garage to look at the car after talking to the man who sold Arnie the car. When that radio turned on and then just turned off, and then there was just nothing but stone silence in that garage, that really made me start thinking like, oh my god, everyone was right. There's definitely something not right with this car. After that moment, the car starts developing this possessive emotion, and it's like going to go after everybody who's done wrong to Arnie, as well as taking out people who mean something to him, so that the car can have Arnie all to itself, which is what I mean by possessive relationship, because this car is not letting anyone or anything take Arnie away from it, and it's going to do anything to make sure that Arnie stays theirs forever. The message I see in Christine was that it's something that I think we all go through once in our lives. It's the fact that we become so attached to something that we can not let it go, or we don't want to let it go, even though we know we need to. And the fact that Arnie became so attached to this car that he wasn't going to leave it, or even if he could, from not losing his mind, the car wasn't going to let him leave. So, I mean, it's just that attachment that really made this movie so scary. So when Stephen King wrote this book of Growing Attached, I don't know what his inspiration was, but when he wrote it and then John Carpenter directed and adding his amazing musical score skills, I mean, this movie was great. It was just a 90-minute masterpiece. Definitely one of the better Stephen King flicks. If you haven't seen Christine, it's definitely one I recommend that you guys see this Halloween.